Congressman, welcome. And let me begin by asking the most obvious question. The Judiciary Committee, of which you're the ranking member, normally would be the committee, historically it always has been, in which any impeachment proceedings would happen. Why did Speaker Pelosi toss it over to the Intelligence Committee with Adam Schiff?
Well, Mike's good to be with you, but also I think the biggest thing is we showed for 10 months that the Russian hoax, the Russia collusion, everything that Chairman Nadler tried to bring into Judiciary Committee, and even including deputizing the 70s by bringing John Dean in, would just prove to be a complete farce. And we beat them down, and when you beat them, Ms. Pelosi had to come back, Speaker Pelosi had to look back at it and say, oh, this ain't going too well. So what she did was she went with her close friend, Adam Schiff from California, who, as I've said many times before, has trouble spelling the truth, much less telling it, was in the Intelligence Committee. So they put him behind his closed doors, and I think that was the key. And from a political move, Mike, let's just be honest, a political move, that was the smartest political move they could do, because they took it behind closed doors. They leaked out what they wanted to leak out, so only what they wanted to come out was coming out to people, so they're being influenced that way.
But why on earth do the Democrats really believe that if this were to go all the way to the Senate in terms of a trial, that this would be credible? Because everyone knows it would be absolutely tossed out on its face. It would never make it in the context of a Senate trial. Why are they even doing this? Is it purely to try to bring public support?
Look, they have been promising this to their base since, frankly, November 2016. The night Hillary Clinton lost was the night impeachment began in the minds of many Democrats. And all you have to do is look at the media, look at their supporters, look at what they send out. They've been talking about this for a long time, and it really saddens me to see the Speaker actually talk about this being a prayerful, solemn moment, because there's nothing new here. In fact, if there's nothing new, we've seen the transcript, we saw the call, we've read everything that's going on. If there's nothing new here, then let's go back to what we do know. The call itself, there was no quid pro quo. The Ukrainian Prime Minister said, I was not pressured, nothing was going on. The Ukrainians got their money, they did nothing to get their money. And by the way, at the time of the call, they didn't even know that there was a discussion about the aid going on.
There's really only been 2 impeachments in the history of the United States of America, 2 that actually went all the way. What message do you, as a congressman and one of the ranking members of Congress, have for the American people as they look at this and try to say, do we need to get rid of this president this close to an election?
I think this week we've seen in the public impeachment hearings, you saw a very good graphic, if you would, or video of what really is wrong many times in Washington. And this is the subtext of the Mr. Kent and Mr. Taylor's testimony the other day was, here it was. We've been in the State Department for many years. We served under every president, Republican and Democrat. We're the experts. The president ought to listen to us, and if he does anything that we don't like, we're the arbiters of what policy should be. So the question I ask the American people is did you elect these ambassadors to lead foreign policy, or did you elect President Donald Trump to lead our country? The scary part about this is, Mike, is this. The Democrats have been constantly attacking our voting process, the actual vote itself, because they believe that if they can get people to where they don't trust a vote, they would be able to win, they would be able to take over. And this is a concern that they can't beat him at the election, so they're going to try and beat him in impeachment. In fact, it's actually been said, we can't win the election unless we impeach him.
People who are employed by the State Department, people who work for the president, even on the national security team, they're employees, they're appointees. They haven't been elected by anybody. And constitutionally, the foreign policy of the United States is the exclusive domain of the president. He has a right to fire people who don't support his policies. That shouldn't be so hard to understand, that no president ought to be saddled with a bunch of people who can't stand him, who wants to undermine him, who goes behind his back. And he has every right to fire them. What's impeachable about that?
Nothing. And I think what's really interesting the other day, and I sort of jokingly called President Swalwell, it was such a long run at president he was attempting, but he made a comment the other day that was really showed his fundamental disconnect on why I'm glad he's not going to be president, is he said this. He said, a president shouldn't fire an ambassador just because that ambassador doesn't follow the policies of the administration. Excuse me?
Unbelievable.
I would assume that if he actually made it to be president, I would assure you he would make sure that his ambassadors followed what his policy would be.
But will it come to the Judiciary Committee? And if it does, will you, as the ranking member on the Republican side, will you have the opportunity to call witnesses, including the whistleblower? Or are we going to continue to see everything in the House kept behind closed doors that the Democrats don't want us to see?
Number one, Adam Schiff is supposed to be giving a report to the Judiciary Committee on the findings and recommendations. First and foremost, and I'm going to start it right here, right now, just start it countrywide. If Adam Schiff presents a report to Judiciary talking about impeachment, Adam Schiff must testify. He must come before the committee, be accessible to both Democrat, Republican, and the White House attorneys to answer the findings of his report. The concerning part I'm having is I'm not getting a good feeling from the Judiciary Committee that they're even looking at possibly having a real substantive hearing. We may have a hearing that talks about the report, maybe with scholarly, constitutional folks who agree with them, but that's not a hearing in which the president's attorneys and others can actually make cases or have a great cross-examination where they can actually say, look, here's the realities here. So what we're seeing is a continuation of an unfair process. We've been sending letters to Chairman Nadler saying, you have a chance to redeem this process and also to find the true facts, which are not going to see what you want, but it shows that the president did nothing wrong. When it comes back to us, that's when it should actually happen. We're going to be fighting. I would recommend folks get ready to watch when that happens.
Congressman, final question. As the song says, I'll be home for Christmas. Will you be home for Christmas? Is this going to be over and wrapped up by then?
I would hope so. I think they're on a desperate time frame. Remember, they got absolutely awful candidates running for president who have to be in Iowa in the first part of February. But I'll tell you what, if I'm upstairs still fighting for what I believe is the American constitutional way of life and making sure that this president is defended because he did nothing wrong here, then I'll stay here through Christmas. My family can come see me and we'll be fine.
Well, Congressman, we are thankful that straightforward representatives of the people like you are making sure that citizens truly know the truth on these proceedings and the everyday issues of government. I want to encourage every one of our audience to stay informed, visiting the Congressman online, dougcollins.house.gov. Follow him on Twitter. You'll enjoy it at Rep. Doug Collins.